Hello everyone. The other day I was making this little ribbon flower and I did not zoom in real well and didn't show you or really explain how to do this. So I thought it would be a good idea if I did a video where I can get really close and show you what I do to make these ribbon flowers. And it dawned on me that I have another one that I can kind of show you how to do. So I'm going to do a couple of ribbon flowers today. I'm going to show you how I do these. They're nothing special. I'm sure lots and lots of videos are out there, but I just wanted to put one here so that you knew exactly what I did. So I'm going to show you the things you'll need and explain what you need to do. Now, I'm going to use embroidery floss for my thread. You do not have to have embroidery floss to do this. You just need a couple of strands of strong thread. So sewing machine thread doubled will be fine. I have this. I have tons of this stuff, and so I'm going to use this. That's the only reason. You are going to need a needle small enough to go through whatever beads you have. Now, these are size 6 seed beads, which means that they're relatively large. If you used a smaller needle, you could use a smaller bead. So that's something you need to think about. This is really, if you put your thread through a smaller needle, great. This is just one that works. So needle, thread, bead is the sizes you have to have. And I cannot answer which ones you need because I don't know what size beads you have. These are big, fat. And you're going to need some ribbon. Now this happens to be relatively sheer ribbon, which is what I like to use best when I'm making ribbon flowers, just simply because it ends up so pretty. There again, if you have satin ribbon, you want to use satin ribbon. You could do this with lace. You could do this with fabric. There is no reason you can't do exactly the same thing with a strip of torn fabric, which would be really pretty. Which means I need to probably sit at my desk and make some of those because I think that'd be fun to have to stick in journals. So you're also going to need some sharp scissors. I am also going to use a couple of pieces of paper. And I'm just going to give myself a little circle of paper. Now, that piece right there could be a piece of fabric. It could be another piece of this ribbon. It could be anything. This is just going to be a base that I'm going to attach my flower to. And I think maybe that it's a little big. That's all right. I may change my mind depending upon how big the flower gets. Doesn't really matter. You just want something to sew your bead to or your flower to, and I may just cut off a piece of this ribbon and use the ribbon itself, which would probably be a better choice. Okay, so there's what I'm going to use. So let's get the needle threaded. Now, when I said thread, you want something reasonably strong. You want a good size length of it because you don't want to run out. Too small of a piece of thread is a pain, but also too long of a piece of thread, it makes it harder to work at with. I was taught very early, don't cut a piece of thread that's too terribly long, because if you do, it ends up tangled up. Now I'm going to tie a knot in this other end of the thread, but you see how I've left about, that's about 3 inches. And I'm going to put my knot clear down there. And I'm probably going to double it up. Okay, so my knot is right here. This tail is kind of an important thing. It makes life a lot easier. Okay, and I don't usually cut my ribbon off the spool. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I stay in frame for you. It's easier to get the right length. It depends on the ribbon. The ribbon will actually tell you how long you need to make your, if it's a heavier ribbon, it's not going to bunch up as much. If it's a lighter weight ribbon, you can bunch up more. If you want the flower to be more scrunchy, so just leave it on the spool and go until you get the look you want. Now I'm going to start about, this is the edge. I'm going to start about, not a half inch in maybe. And I'm going to start from the back side. And this ribbon is sort of one-sided. It's prettier on one side than the other. So I'm going to want this prettier side to be on the top. And I'm going to make my stitches 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch long. And what I'm going to do is what's called a running stitch. I just go in and out of the ribbon. Okay, so can you see the stitches? Of course, I used green thread on green ribbon. I should have thought better of that. I usually do a couple of stitches before I pull my thread through. And I usually sew 5 or 6 inches before I start pulling things up. Okay, so I have a reasonable amount of stitching already done. And I'm just going to hold on to the edge of the ribbon and pull this up. Just pull. And it's just going to curl up on itself. It's going to be sort of a pain to hold on to. And obviously I'm going to need more stitching done. I haven't even pulled it up tight yet, and I'm definitely going to have more. So we're just going to sew this up. And I'm not being real precise on exactly where I put my stitches in, but along one edge. I didn't say that earlier. It's going to be close to one edge, not down the middle. And knowing how much I've stitched, that's about 12 to 14 inches of ribbon that I've stitched through, just so you have an idea. And I'm thinking that may be about enough. Yep. Okay, I'm going to do like 2 more stitches. Okay, so I have this little wad of stuff right now. I've got a little bit left. I'm going to cut off my ribbon, and I'm going to put my needle to the back, about a ½ inch from the end, just like we started. Okay. Then I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to kind of make sure I've got it sort of straightened out a little bit, just so I can see that it's laying to the back. You see how it's laying? And now I have this tail. I have this tail. So you see I have the, let me see if I can get it held better so you can see it. I have the two tails kind of right together. And I'm going to pull these together. Just pull and let it slide. And now I'm going to actually take these two tails. I gotta get them turned around because I need the short one in my right hand because I'm, you know, like that. And put your finger on, just kind of hold this stuff down and then pull, because what's going to happen, that's why you need nice strong thread. What's going to happen is when you pull this to tie a knot, the gathering stitches all bunch it up. Okay. Now I've tied several knots and I'm going to, the short end, do not cut this piece off right now. The short end, I'm just going to cut so it's only about a ½ inch long. And your flower is already really cute. Okay? See how cute that is? So here's the thing. At this stage of the game, if you don't want beads on it, if you want a button, you could use a button. If you want to just sew it onto your project, you could just sew it onto your project. You don't have to do the next steps. This is good. You could actually cut this loose and glue it down to something without anything in the middle. Okay, but I want to stitch some beads into the middle, and because I'm not stitching it to a project, I'm actually going to, that's what I'm going to use this little piece of ribbon for. I'm going to stitch through this piece of ribbon, because what it does is it kind of anchors this thread, which I already have the back, and it just kind of, it gives my flower, I'm trying to push this down where you can see what I'm doing. It gives the flower something, my stitches something to hold on to back here. Okay, so I'm going to stitch through that piece that's on the back. It could be fabric, it could be, and the only reason I'm doing it this way instead of stitching it straight to a project is because I don't exactly have a project, but I'm using that little piece of ribbon as a piece to hold those stitches in the back. That's all. And you don't have to have that, it's just part that will help to make it, to hold on to it. Now we can just stitch our beads in. And I just come up in multiple places, and you can see I'm stitching right through that little piece of ribbon on the back. I'm going to grab a bead and stitch back down. Not only does the little piece on the back help hold it, it helps me have a more stable base when I go to attach it to my project. These stitches with the beads kind of hold all the little ruffles in place because I'm stitching up and down through the very edge of the ribbon. Okay, it has decided to catch on something. Come on. What's up? Okay, so what did I get caught on? I'm not sure. I may have stitched right through the knot. Okay, always something. All right. And I'm going to put 5 little beads in here. Sorry for my fingers and that you can't see what's going on. I still haven't figured out a good way to show you things without getting my fingers in the way. Okay, so now we have a little flower with little beads in the middle. You could sew this to something, you could glue it to something. It would make the cutest paper clip. Oh yes, it would make an adorable little paper clip. I'm just tying a knot now with my thread so that my beads don't come undone. Because most likely I'll glue this to something. Okay. And that's how I made that little flower. Now, I had an idea, and since I was making this video, I thought I would show you another flower that you can do. It's real simple. Let's see, how big do we want to make these? I'm going to go for 4 inches roughly. I'm not going to really measure. I'm going to just do 4 inches. Let's see, how many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go for 7 of these. We'll see how it looks. Four inches might be too long. I haven't made one of these in a while. We need a nice, reasonably long piece of thread, so that one's not going to work. There's another one right there. This is plenty. Well, it's almost as short as the last one. And I don't think those are going to work. I think they're a little short. Yeah, this white will do. Oh, that's perfect. I might have to cut that edge off. Okay, once again, I am going to tie my knot about 3 inches down because I don't like to try to tie the ruffles up with a piece that's so short that I can barely make it work with my fingers. And I'm going to put a nice good sized knot in it. Then I'm going to fold this in half. Oops, I'm sorry, almost off the camera. I'm going to fold this in half like so. And this time we're going to take slightly smaller stitches because we want to get a couple of stitches in here, and I'm going to give myself a good 3/8 of an inch from the edge. Okay, so I've got 2.5 stitches in there, 2.5 to 3 stitches going across the ribbon. And I'm going to fold the next one, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so once again, we have a running stitch in our little petals, and I'm going to turn this. Okay, see, that one is on the top, so I need to have one more stitch in here so that they're both on the same side. It does sort of matter. I don't know why, it just seems to work better if that's the case. Okay, at this stage of the game, we start pulling these up. Okay, now I want to tie this together just like I did on the last one. Okay, but I want to tie it here, like so. Basically, what's going to happen is all of these tails, the ends, the cut edges are all going to be on one side. We want them to make sure that they stay all on one side. Because that's going to be our back side. And you noticed I pulled that tight. And I tied it in about 3 knots, and I'm going to cut this little short one off about 3/8 of an inch or so long. Now, this one has much more of a blob on the back, okay? So we're going to sort of hold on to it and push all the petals out from the front. Making sure that all of these, see, this one didn't go to the back. Looky right here what happened. This one didn't go to the back, so we got to get it to the back. So we're going to just take our needle and we're going to just kind of push it, because we don't want the raw edges in the middle of our flower. Okay, so now all of the raw edges are back here, like so. And if you hold on to them, then you can push this flower out, like so. My tail. This one's a little harder to do. It's not wanting to behave this morning. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to make myself a little piece for the back. And before I even put any beads on, I'm going to do a couple of stitches, because frankly, this flower has an attitude, and it's not wanting to lay flat. So we're just gonna get it all flattened out, sort of, and stitch it to make it behave. So right now I've got hold of it from the back side. I've got my little piece of ribbon on the back, and I'm just gonna run up to the front hold of it all. And go across and stitch it back to the back. Just to, yeah, see, and I missed my little thing, so I want to make sure I stitch into that piece of ribbon that's on the back side. Okay. What we're doing is we're just sort of stitching it to make the leaves, or petals rather, behave and do what they need to do. Making them lay down. The back gets very messy. I'm going to probably glue this to something or stitch it to something. It's not, it doesn't have to be pretty on the back for me. Now, if your stitching skills are better than mine, it will probably look better. Okay. Once we've got 2 or 3 stitches in there and we've got these petals sort of being petals and it being a flower, then we can start stitching our beads in. You could also use a button. For that matter, you could use a button on the back if you wanted to. It would make it stick up higher. As far as on whatever you were putting it on. We're going to put, like, we're going to make these have little, I'm going to make like little stamens in here. So I put several beads on, not just one. Because what will happen then is it will stand up. You see how that stands up? Just for the fun of it. It wasn't necessary. It just was for fun. Would help if I got the needle through the flower before I... There again, the stitching the beads on helps to keep the flower petals in place. This would make a fun little paper clip. It would make a fun embellishment in your journals. Put it on a tag. Well, come here, beads. Once again, I want to do an odd number, so I'm doing 5 of our little stamen things. There we go. Now that did make it a much thicker embellishment than just a single bead in there. So that's something to consider. And you see now the back doesn't look too bad. It's just a little messy. Of course, using the same color thread as your ribbon eliminates quite the visual messy that I've made. And I'm just going to tie a knot. And cut it off about, oh, 1/4 of an inch, because I am going to probably glue it down. So let's just rearrange these just a little bit. That is the little flowers. Now I love these little tiny ones. They're perfect on paper clips. You could have made the original. I made the petals on this one about 4 inches. If you made them say 2 or 3 inches, you'd get a smaller flower. I will tell you that if you get these petals too short, it's hard to sew because of the mess that it ends up with on the back. I happen to like this flower just a little bit better, just as far as ease goes. It just depends on what I'm doing. But I just wanted you to see how to make this one, since I made it in my Abandoning Perfection journal and didn't really explain it, and show you the other one. So anyways, guys, I hope that you really enjoyed this little tutorial. And while I know that other people, there's lots of people making ribbon flowers, I thought I'd show you my way. And now I just want to tell you to go have fun and make some art. Bye-bye.